Okay, election day is when? Well, no, it's not coming. Election day is here because early voting is here. Every day is election day now. Today, tomorrow, every day. Well, how are we doing? I want to know. Are we going to win? I don't know. Let's talk to Seth about it. Look, he's former Army. We'll try to get the best we can out of him. Joining me now, Seth Keshel, not only former Army, Afghanistan. He's an election analytics expert. Okay, Seth. Early voting, I realize there's a bunch of states, a bunch of swing states that matter a lot. Nevada, Georgia. What's happening? Are we winning? Are we losing? Should I start crying now?
You know, we all lived through the safest and most secure election of all time in 2020. So I think it's pretty normal for people to have some trauma wounds from that election. And the GOP's been bigger about getting out the early vote and competing with the mail-in vote. Now, I've got my opinions about the whole thing, but right now, the numbers look horrible if you are a Kamala Harris supporter. And one of the bigger tells right now is Florida in-person early voting. Yesterday, when it started, Democrats had a 7-point turnout edge from the mail-in voting, and it's now R+4 and getting worse. And I'm watching Duval County in Florida because it's a perfect mirror for the state of Georgia. They move right, they move left together, and it's really not looking good for her in Georgia either. Turnout in core Atlanta, Fulton, DeKalb, Clayton counties is way down. The electorate in Georgia is much whiter there than it was in 2020, and same in North Carolina. And we can go all the way across the map. You mentioned Nevada. Republicans are leading turnout there, mail plus early voting in Nevada. So I don't know that anything is looking up for her.
Okay, do you know why? What is obviously I don't need any excuse to despise Kamala Harris. You and I could talk about this all day long, but why aren't the voters turning out? Democrats always turn out. They turn out in meaningless local elections. To their credit, they turn out in off-year elections. Why are they not turning out this year? Or is it that we are turning out in such huge numbers?
It's a bit of a mixed bag. You know, they amped up their turnout artificially with 2020, loosening the laws, making sure that everybody had a mail-in ballot. In fact, if the hurricane that struck Western North Carolina would have hit Philadelphia, they'd be dropping off ballots in the apartments with drones. So the turnout issue for them is going to be down. They don't have the sugar high from 2020, but they're missing a key chunk of their coalition. The Democrats that are turning out are the old white liberals, and you can find them in suburban areas and suburban House districts. I've seen the numbers out here in Arizona, but the core Obama coalition, the minority working class, they are not coming out, especially the men. It's evident in places like Atlanta or places that register voters by party where everything is trended much more Republican in the early vote. And of course, the GOP always wins election day voting. And as the clock ticks by, you see behavioral things that I pick up on, like Tim Walz is going to campaign in Kentucky, Harris is going down to Houston, and these are not focused on battleground states. So I'm curious, especially given the fact that the LA Times won't endorse a presidential candidate if they're beginning the process of throwing in the towel.
Okay, so walk me through that, because this is not the first time I've heard this, that it almost seems as if they're abandoning her. Is this about protecting down ballot? Because I have heard from my sources panic in various Democrat senatorial campaigns that they think they are going to possibly lose their races because of her. Is that what this is about?
You can see that in the Rust Belt states most appropriately. You've got Bob Casey running for Senate in Pennsylvania, who's now running ads talking about all the Trump policies that he supported. His polling is neck and neck. Now, I don't really do polling. I do voter registration trends and behavioral trends. But in Michigan, you have Slotkin running for Senate there against Mike Rogers, who put out on an internal leak that their polling has Harris several points underwater, and she's running apart from her. And Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin is doing the same in her Senate race, trying to distance and not campaign with Harris. So clearly, given the fact that she's probably never held a hammer, a wrench, or worn a hard hat in her life, she's not somebody that's bringing up the working class coalition in those states that she needs to win. Her only path is to hold all three of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin at this point.
Okay. Can she? I don't want to get overconfident. I don't want to get cocky. I know the problems she's having with men and minorities and others. Does she have a path to victory right now?
Right now, the Democrat edge with mail-in ballot returns is trending down to where it looks like they're only going to be up about 20 points on election day with the mail returns. It was over 40 points in 2020 when an Irish Catholic named Scranton Joe from northeastern Pennsylvania barely squeaked out Pennsylvania with what I would call a quasi-election going on. So I don't think Pennsylvania looks good for her. And not only that, I think Pennsylvania looks like 2016 Ohio. All 63 out of 67 counties in Pennsylvania are on a Republican trajectory in voter registration since 2020. And the 4 that aren't are on a Republican trajectory here in the last month. Philadelphia County looks like it's probably going to give her a margin of 60,000 less or so than they're used to based on registration numbers and voter roll purges alone. So Pennsylvania has all the makings of a low grade red state, working class red state. Michigan's going to be tough. They have the cheat machine really fired up there with 83% of the population registered to vote when only 77% of any population is over the age of 18. That's been out in the news here lately with Jocelyn Benson trying to get ahead of that, going after Elon Musk. And Wisconsin pairs up with Iowa. Iowa is now an R+10 state when it was R+1 in 2020. They've never been more than 9.8% apart since 1956. So Trump looks like he's getting in the process of flipping Wisconsin in the same way he did Iowa in 2016.
I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.